James Fahn from Internews' Earth Journalism Network and the Climate Change Media Partnership. I'm also from California, Governor Newsom, and our state, here we go, right here.
There you go.
Yeah. Our state is home to social media firms and AI companies that, of course, power our economy, but they're also spreading climate disinformation and causing a surge in electricity demand. What do you think we should do, if anything, about that?
Well, as you know, we're the first state in the country to regulate AI enterprises. We've led the nation as it relates to truth and trust policies, as it relates to social media companies. We can do a lot more. I'm not naive about that. We're also home to 32 of the top 50 AI companies in the world, so we're not naive about the impacts, particularly from a consumption perspective, not just electricity, energy broadly defined, but also water. And also recognize our responsibility to continue our nation-leading innovation, not just in these technologies, but in new technologies like fusion, new technologies like modern nuclear, and looking at those kinds of investments that are happening disproportionately, the research and development in those spaces, disproportionately in my own home state. So that's the way we approach these things. We're not naive about the world we're inventing, and not naive about the impacts of that world, not just in our state, but globally as well.
Governor Somini Sengupta from the New York Times, you have said a couple of times that you want to reframe climate action as an economic issue. How should Democrats in the United States be talking about climate change? Because when they tried to talk about climate change in the last presidential election, it was one of the issues, among others, that did not seem to resonate with voters.
Well, that's why I said it's not about electric power, it's about economic power. I think we have to reframe it as a cost of living issue. And we've seen the estimates from the New York Times, among others, reported the estimates of Donald Trump's attack and assault on Joe Biden's policies as it relates to his low-carbon green growth initiatives will cost the average ratepayer 10% more in bills this calendar year. That's a kitchen table issue. That's a cost of living issue. It's about people. It's about places. It's about lifestyles. It's about traditions. I think we have to use different language. I've said this before with respect to the global audience. The vast majority of my audience doesn't know what Celsius is. You talking 1.5 degrees Celsius, how many more degrees is that Fahrenheit? We talk about greenhouse gas emissions. Where are they? Do they float in the sky or where do they land? We don't understand. We have to use better metaphors. We have to change our language. We have to talk in terms of that people understand, a pollution bucket. We have to talk in terms that I think can unite people and not look at this in the abstract. And so I think we have some work to do as a party, as a nation, and that progress we're trying to make and promote here at COP.
Thank you. We'll go over to the gentleman in the front here.
Governor Newsom, we see between these U.S. administrations a climate action whiplash. How can the United States move beyond that and to the point where the basic direction of travel on fundamental issues like moving away from fossil fuels becomes a nonpartisan issue?
Let me give you a proof point. In Trump's first administration, 4 years, he doubled solar production. We reduced coal use and greenhouse gases were reduced despite his policies. The market is moving in this direction. States are moving in this direction. I happen to be co-chair of 4 different partnerships in the United States of America. I just left America All In Partnership, a bipartisan leadership group of subnational, local, particularly state and local leaders. I'm the co-chair of the U.S. Climate Alliance, 24 governors. We're part of initiatives, our clean car initiatives as it relates to zero-emission vehicles, of which roughly a third of our new car purchases were zero-emission vehicles. Our Pacific Coast Collaborative. States are partnering despite the headwinds in Washington, D.C. So I think it's incredibly important not to look at the prism of the United States through one lens, federal, but federalism, states, local government, 10th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Federal vision is realized at the local level, and remarkable things continue to happen all across the United States, in cities large and small, and states large and small.
And if the mayor of Malmo wants to share some comments.
Okay, then I would like to underline that what Governor just said about creating a new language. I really think it's important to talk in a way that builds trust. And I think in the case of my city, we started to transform the city due to the industrial crisis. And today I would say that we have a strong support from our citizens since they saw the change with a strong focus on the green transition created lots of new green jobs. We had a very problematic situation with problems due to the industrial crisis. And today we are one of the fastest growing cities, and we collaborate very, very close with the business sector and all our citizens. So it's also important to remember that the trust for local leaders, governors, mayors, is quite often higher than trust on the national level. So the language and the trust is really so important to be successful.
I appreciate that, Mayor. It's also results. We have 7 times more green energy jobs than we do fossil fuel jobs. We've reduced greenhouse gases since 2000 by 21%, and our GDP has grown 81%. When I started, we were the 6th largest economy in the world. Now we're the 4th. Tesla comes from my state for a reason. It was our regulatory policies. And 60 headquartered companies in that space are now in California because of our regulatory policies. One of our biggest exports. We're #1 in two-way trade, #1 in direct foreign investment. More scientists, engineers, more Nobel laureates in my state than any other state. We dominate in R&D. China, Germany, and California in that order. Research and development. So it's an economic imperative that's producing results, but trust is the coin of the realm. Well stated.
Thank you. I have a gentleman in the front here.
Over here, Governor. Willie Tam with True North from Canada. Earlier today, yeah, you saw me. Earlier today,
You was trying to talk to me all day. God bless you.
Earlier today, you said Canada was your favorite neighbor, and of course, California seems to be at lockstep when it comes to a lot of environmental policies with Canada, specifically on the EV electrical vehicle mandate. Both country and state have the 2035 goal of 100% new sales being electric. I want to ask you about carbon pricing, or specifically a carbon tax. Do you, as the governor of California, support a carbon taxing system in your state, and do you think it should be implemented like it was in Canada across the country in America?
We just 2 weeks ago, we extended our cap and invest program to 2045. By the way, we have a relationship with Quebec in relationship to that carbon market. Just extended it. So we've chosen that path as it relates to cap and trade, cap and invest. As it relates to the merits and demerits on carbon taxes, we can debate that perhaps in a separate place, in a separate forum. But California's approach, low carbon fuel standards and cap and trade, are the backbone of our transition. Final point. I initiated the first in the nation zero emission vehicle mandate by 2035. We marked the market and we shifted consciousness, and going back decades, this has been the case in California with our clean waiver, with our tailpipe emissions rules. We've sort of set the market for American automobile manufacturing. Donald Trump has vandalized that. And one of our largest legacy automobile manufacturers, GM, sold out. And I believe they put themselves at a massive competitive disadvantage. They made one of the worst business decisions they can possibly make. China is here. Only one country is not here, the United States of America, because they understand 70% of that ZEV market. Flooding the zone here, you've seen the buses, high quality, high technology. This is something California will not cede and will continue to try to lead, despite what our federal government's doing.
Do you expect to push back that mandate of 2035 for 100%? Do you expect to push it down the line, as you're seeing pressure in Canada, for example, where likely your politicians are thinking about that?
Well, we're in litigation with the Trump administration. They're trying to eliminate our rights under the Clean Air Act that are well established to advance in that space, but we continue to push the envelope. 2.2 million ZEVs on the streets of my state.